Good afternoon, everybody. This is Natsumi Kajutani from Embassy of India, Tokyo. Before webinar starts, we would like to request panelists to note following points. Keep your audio and video muted, except when you are called up to speak for your presentation. Please use only one device in a room, otherwise there is likely to be an echo sound. There is a Q&A box below the video. When panelists receive questions from participants through Q&A box, you may answer it either privately or publicly. Please keep in mind that all the publicly answered questions will be available for all the participants to view. In case you answer privately, only the participants who ask the question will be able to see the answer. Today, interpreter will summarize in Japanese or English after all the presentation is done. We request panelists to conclude presentation 3 to 5 minutes before your allocated time for summary interpretation and announcement. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your cooperation. 本日は日印ビデオ会議鉄鋼分野挑戦と対等する商機にご参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございます。本日のウェブセミナーは駐日インド大使館主催インド鉄鋼省日本貿易振興機構ジェトロ日印経済委員会インベストインディアのご協力のもと開催させていただきます。司会は私インド大使館の梶谷通訳は同じくインド大使館の土屋と星野が務めさせていただきます。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。Thank you for your participation today to India-Japan webinar Investment Opportunities. Indo-Japan webinar on steel sector challenges and emerging opportunities. This webinar is organized by Embassy of India, Tokyo, in association with Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO, Japan-India Business Cooperation Committee, JIBCC, Invest India, and Ministry of Steel, Government of India. Web セミナー開始までに参加者の皆様にお願い事項を申し上げます。参加者は講演中であっても、Zoom の Q&A 機能を利用して、パネリストへ質問を送信できます。ご質問は講演中でも順次受け付けておりますので、質疑応答の時間までに質問したい登壇者名をご記入の上、パネリストへご送信ください。いただいたご質問は、質疑応答の時間、もしくはチャット機能を通して回答されます。ネットワーキングでは B2B ミーティングに関心を示していただいた日本とインドの企業様のリストを表示し、希望される企業様より会社紹介をしていただきます。参加者はオンラインチャット機能を使い、ご自身でこれらの企業にコンタクトし、B2B ミーティングを設定いただけます。本日のウェブセミナーは YouTube のライブストリーミングでもご視聴いただけます。もし技術的な問題で Zoom にアクセスできない参加者がいらっしゃいましたら、インド大使館の Facebook ページでアップしている YouTube リンクからアクセスくださいませ。なお、本日の通訳は登壇者が英語もしくは日本語で全て発表し終わった後、別の言語で要約として通訳をいたします。それではウェブセミナー開始まで今しばらくお待ちくださいませ。We would like to request participants to note following points. During webinar, participants can send their questions to panelists through Zoom function Q&A. Questions will be answered only during Q&A session or through online chat. During networking session, list of the companies which indicated interest to business-to-business B2B meeting will be shown on the screen. If you wish to introduce your company to other participants, please send message to host through chat. The company can introduce themselves in 1 to 2 minutes during the online networking session, and delegates are free to contact these companies through online chat. And companies are available to schedule B2B meetings by themselves. This webinar is available to watch from YouTube as well. If you have technical trouble for accessing Zoom, we may request you to view from YouTube. Please visit Facebook page of Embassy of India, Tokyo. Link of YouTube is shared with our Facebook page. Thank you for your cooperation. We will start the webinar shortly.それでは、ただいまより、日印ビデオ会議、鉄鋼分野、朝鮮と対等する商機を開始いたします。はじめに、在日インド大使館経済商務担当講師、モナカンダールより、開会と歓迎のご挨拶を申し上げます。First, I would like to request Ms. Mona Kandar, Minister Economic and Commerce, Embassy of India, Tokyo, to give the welcome and opening remarks.
Konnichiwa, Namaste. Deputy Director General Mr. Onodera from METI, Japan. Joint Secretary from Ministry of Steel, Government of India. And Principal Secretaries from State Governments of Odisha, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand. Distinguished panelists from Nippon Steel, Tata Steel, and Sanyo Steel, and delegates. Post-COVID-19 world, including Japan and India, has realized the necessity to diversify regional and global value chain, offering us an opportunity to realign bilateral trade and investment collaboration. Along with rising number of COVID-19 cases in India, there are emerging good trends as well, with recovery rate rising to almost 64% from 11%. Fatality rate dropping from 3.13% to 2.3%. Government aims to bring it down to 1%. Number of tests and health facilities constantly increasing. India is self-sufficient in PPEs and ventilators. It is one of the leading countries in pharmaceuticals and vaccine development for COVID-19. The economy is witnessing green shoots as well. Good harvest and monsoon have led to revival of rural demand. Tractors and two-wheelers show recovery sign. Capital markets, power consumption are also on recovery path. In 2020, so far, India has drawn foreign direct investment of $20 billion. Apple has begun to produce iPhone 11 in India. And Google has announced its investment plans in India. With metropolis like Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad showing good COVID-19 containment results, stage is set for recovery in other cities as well. With more than 1,440 Japanese companies and 5,000 Japanese business establishment and Japanese FDI among top 5, contributing about 7% of total FDI in India, a good groundwork is prepared for Make in India investment by Japanese companies. However, investment in India forms just about 2% of Japan's total investments. Therefore, there is a lot of potential to enhance Japanese investment in India. Government of India released the National Steel Policy 2017, which has laid down the broad roadmap for encouraging long-term growth for Indian steel industry, both on demand and supply sides by 2030-31. Rapid rise in production has resulted in India becoming the second largest producer of crude steel during 2018 and 2019, from its status of third largest in 2017. The country is also the largest producer of sponge iron and the third largest finished steel consumer in the world after China and United States of America in 2019. The per capita steel consumption in India is 73.3 kg as against 224.5 kg of world average in 2018. It is expected to increase to 160 kg by 2030-31. India's finished steel consumption grew at CAGR of 5.2% during 2016 to 2020. The government has also announced a policy for preference to domestically manufactured iron and steel production in government procurement. Steel sector in India has a strong ecosystem of abundant raw material, lower cost skilled labor, and growing demand. It is getting constantly modernized with state-of-the-art steel mills. One of the top imports from India to Japan is iron ore for producing high-quality steel, which is otherwise a restricted commodity. Japanese steel companies like Nippon Steel, Sanyo Steel, JFE have taken the route of joint venture with reputed Indian steel companies like Tata Steel, Mahindra Steel, and Jindal Steel. The steel industry is witnessing consolidation of players and suppliers, thereby providing still better prospects for FDI in this sector. States of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha are very important steel producing states with a good presence of ecosystem for producing steel. Government of India's Atmanirbhar Bharat stimulus of rupees 21 trillion, which is 10% of India's GDP, entails a series of reforms extending to hitherto untouched sectors besides huge funding support, such that it ensures higher GDP in future to create additional fiscal space. Its main objective is to make in India and make India self-reliant by opening up Indian economy still further to promote manufacturing and exports from India. Steel sector in particular stands to gain hugely from this phase of reforms. Coal mining sector has been opened up to private sector with easy entry and revenue sharing norms on ad valorem basis. Very recently, Honorable Prime Minister unveiled auction for 41 coal mines. Coal bed methane extraction rights will be auctioned from the Central PSU Coal India Limited's coal mines. Coal gasification, liquefaction will be incentivized through rebate in revenue share to expedite switching to a gas-based economy for India. Rupees 500 billion is provided to set up infrastructure for extraction of more than 1 billion tons of coal production. Ease of doing business measures in coal sector includes mining plan simplification to make it amenable for loading online. Automatic 40% increase in annual production is allowed now. Reserve price in auctions for non-power consumers is reduced, credit terms eased, and lifting period enhanced. For mineral sector, a seamless composite exploration cum mining cum production regime is introduced. 500 mining blocks would be offered through an open and transparent auction process. Joint auction of bauxite and coal mineral blocks is introduced to enhance aluminium industry's competitiveness and thereby reduce electricity costs. Distinction between captive and non-captive mines is removed to generate more efficiency. Ministry of Mines is in the process of developing mineral index for different minerals. Stamp duty payable at the time of award of mining leases is rationalized. 100% FDI is allowed through automatic route in coal and mining sectors. Power sector reforms are carried forward to revise tariff policy to protect consumer rights and promote industries. Incentive schemes will be launched for promotion of new champion sectors like solar PV manufacturing, advanced cell battery storage, etc. These reforms will create a huge impact on overall energy and power sector. Incentive schemes have been announced for electronics, mobile, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices for diversification of value chain in these sectors. Sectors like civil aviation, space, atomic energy, defense are also opened up further to private sector. Public sector enterprise policy will open up all sectors reserved for public sector to private sector. Technology-driven online education with multi-mode access has been launched. With this round, reform process is near complete in India, covering all sectors and providing opportunities to create an integrated ecosystem. Investment-related criteria for MSMEs have been revised upward to cover more number of businesses into MSMEs. Level playing field is provided to MSMEs through financial and technology support. Rupees 3 trillion collateral-free loans for businesses is provided for. Companies Act has been decriminalized. The taxation framework is getting reformed to promote Make in India. The corporate tax is slashed by half to 15%, which is now one of the lowest in the world. Dividend distribution tax is withdrawn mainly on receiving many requests from Japan. India is constantly improving its investment environment as its position in global ease of doing business ranking surged to 63rd in 2019, rising by 79 ranks in 5 years. It is 52nd in Global Innovation Index, rising by 29 places. And it holds 44th position in Logistics Performance Index, rising by 10 places. It is 68th in Global Competitive Index. Recently, India moved to 3rd position from 4th in Global Manufacturing Index. Government has taken up next phase of ease of doing business on a mission mode to include easy registration of property, quick disposal of commercial disputes, and initiating a single tax regime. States will be ranked on investment attractiveness. Fast-track investment clearance through empowered group of secretaries has been set up. Project development cell in each ministry has been set up to prepare investable projects and coordinate with investors and central and state government offices. Information on availability of industrial land bank for promoting new investment is provided through industrial information system with GIS mapping. India enjoys a unique advantage of human resources that has both the characteristics, low cost, skilled workforce, and innovative brains that are leading in startups and innovation. In addition, Government of India will skill about 400 million persons to adapt to Industry 4.0 for manufacturing to transform India's young population into demographic dividend. India has one of the largest startup ecosystem. This sector is Government of India's priority to provide comprehensive support of funding, policy, and ecosystem. Rupees 100 billion fund of fund has been set up and provision is made for early stage funding and tax incentives. Policies for data center parks, technology and knowledge translation clusters, national mission on quantum technology, and application have been launched. Platform like India Stake is similar to Internet, on which applications are developed and connected through interoperability, thereby boosting startup and innovation further. India is all set for indigenous 5G network. Artificial intelligence and Internet of Things are new growth areas for startups. In a major boost to infrastructure, India has announced US $1.4 trillion India Infra Pipeline Policy for next 5 years, covering more than 6,500 projects and covering 22 sectors. National Logistics Policy aims at reducing logistics costs from 14% to 10% to boost Make in India and export from India. Considering advantages like democracy, rule of law, strategic location, and others, India is rated as a top destination for FDI by Bloomberg Media and JBIC. Indo-Japan friendship has led to Japan-specific facilitation as well, like specially built Japan Industrial Townships, Japan-India Institute for Manufacturing for sector-specific skilling of Indian workers, sector-specific bilateral dialogues, Indo-Japan Industrial Competitiveness Forum, official development assistance program by JICA for infrastructure and other sectors. Indian subsidiaries have outperformed their parent companies in terms of revenue, net profit, and internal rate of return. Today, when world economy is on inflection point, India has taken up unconventional reforms to complete the cycle of an open economy. With strong primary and service sectors, stage is set for strengthening manufacturing sector and thereby strengthening overall economy. This is the right time to be in India, and we welcome Japanese investors with open arms. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Arigato gozaimasu.
インドでは新型コロナウイルスからの回復率が上昇し、死亡率が下がっています。経済もまた新たな芽が出ています。2020年、インドには200億ドルの直接海外投資が流入しました。アップルもインドで iPhone の製造を始めました。Google も対インド投資計画を発表しました。インドでは1440社以上の日本企業が事業を行っており、営業所の数は5000以上に及びます。日本はインドにおける投資国としてトップ5に入りますが、さらに対インド投資を伸ばす余地があるでしょう。2017年国家鉄鋼政策の目的は、2030年度までの鉄鋼産業の長期的成長を後押しすることです。インドは2018年と19年の粗鋼生産では世界第2位でした。2018年現在の1人当たり鉄鋼消費は 73.3 キロでしたが、2030年から31年にかけてはこれが160キロまで増加すると見込まれています。また、インド政府は国産の鉄鋼製品を優先するという方針を発表しています。インドの鉄鋼部門は豊富な原材料、低コストな熟練労働力、需要の拡大などに支えられた強力なエコシステムを持っています。日本製鉄、山陽特殊製鋼、JFE などの日本の鉄鋼メーカーは、タタスティール、マヒンドラスティール、ジンダルスティールなどのインドの鉄鋼大手とのジョイントベンチャーを設立しました。ジャールカンド、チャティスガール、オディッシャの各州は重要な鉄鋼生産地です。コロナ禍を受けて発表された刺激策、自立したインドは、製造輸出の推進と改革を通じてインド経済をさらに開放することを目的としています。鉄鋼産業はこれらの改革で最も大きな恩恵を受けると見られています。石炭採鉱も民間に開放されました。最近インド政府は41の炭鉱の入札手続きを発表しました。さらに10トンの石炭を採鉱するためのインフラの開発に5000億ルピーが計上されています。鉱物部門に関しても探査、採鉱、生産を一貫して管理する制度が導入されました。500の採鉱区域がオープンで透明性のある競売の対象となります。電気部門の改革により消費者の権利保護と産業推進を主眼に置いた料金改定が行われます。電子機器、携帯端末、医薬品、医療機器などの分野におけるバリューチェーンを多様化するため、様々なインセンティブが設けられました。民間航空、宇宙、原子力、防衛なども民間に開放されました。零細中小企業を対象に3兆ルピー規模の無担保ローンも提供されています。法人税は5割引き下げられ 15% になりました。配当分配税は撤廃されました。世界銀行のビジネスのしやすさ指数では、インドの順位は5年間で79ポイント上昇し、2019年には6位となりました。最近の世界製造指数では、インドは4位から3位へと順位を上げました。インドは人材面での独自の強みである低コストの高度人材と創造的な頭脳という他国にはない組み合わせを持っています。インドには世界でも最大規模のスタートアップのエコシステムもあります。今後5年間で1兆4000億ドル規模のインフラ投資が行われ、 6500以上の開発計画が実行される予定です。また、インド政府は国家物流政策のもと、GDP に占める物流費の割合を14% から 10% まで低下させることを目指しています。民主主義、法の支配、戦略的な立地などからインドはブルームバーグや国際協力銀行に最も好ましい海外直接投資先と評価されています。日日間の友好関係を反映した日本に特化した産業促進策も多数あります。企業のインド子会社は親会社よりも収益、純利益、内部利益率の面で上回っています。今こそインドに投資する最適な時がやってきたと思います。
Next, I would like to request Mr. Osamu Onodera, Deputy Director General for Trade Policy, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, to give a remark on post-COVID-19 challenges for steel sector. 続きまして、経済産業省通商交渉官、小野寺治様より、コロナ後における鉄鋼部門の課題についてご講演いただきます。小野寺様、よろしくお願いいたします。
ただいま紹介に預かりました経済産業省通商交渉官の小野寺です。インド大使館主催の鉄鋼ウェビナーでお話しする機会をいただき、感謝申し上げます。日本とインドは両国の共通の価値観をベースとして安倍総理とモディ首相との個人的な関係もあり、緊密かつ良好な関係を構築してきました。今日、世界の国々が新型コロナで経済活動に大きな制約がかかっている中にあっても、日印の経済関係を深めるべく、鉄鋼に関するウェビナーを開催されたインド政府関係の皆様に敬意を表します。新型コロナの影響は日本においても大変甚大なものとなっております。特に深刻な影響を受けている中小零細事業者に対しては、緊急経済対策に基づく支援措置を講じるとともに、大企業、中小企業にかかわらず、雇用を維持するための雇用調整金等の支援も行っております。モナ講師からも話がありましたように、インドの鉄鋼産業は、今や日本を抜いて世界第2位の鉄鋼生産国であり、インド国内の鉄鋼需要については、インフラ開発や自動車分野などを中心に拡大基調にあると認識しております。また、インド政府はメイクインインディアイニシアティブの一環として2030年までに粗鋼生産能力を3億トンに拡大することを計画しています。コロナでどの国の鉄鋼業界も大変厳しい状況にはありますが、インドが大変有望な市場であるということは間違いなさそうであります。そうした中で、これまで日本の鉄鋼メーカーによるインドへの投資も活発に行われてきております。例えば JFE スチールは JSW に出資をしたり、あるいは日本製鉄はタタスティールとジョイントベンチャーを設立するとともに、昨年12月にはアルセロールミッタルと共同で SR スチールを買収しております。こうした日印鉄鋼メーカーの連携は、インドの雇用や技術力、品質の向上に貢献するとともに、インドと日本双方の鉄鋼産業の発展に貢献してきています。また、日印の鉄鋼分野における政府間協力として、2011年から省エネ、安全操業、国内鉄鋼需要把握など、非常に多岐な分野にわたって協力を進めてきているところであります。そして昨年12月には、プラダン鉄鋼大臣と梶山経済産業大臣との間で鉄鋼に関する政策対話を早期に開催しようという意見の一致を受けて、今後とも日印協力関係をさらに強化していくこととしております。コロナ危機を踏まえまして、日本企業の中にもグローバルなサプライチェーンを見直すという動きがございます。特定の海外の部品からの部品の供給が滞ったために、製品の生産をストップせざるを得なくなったケースもあり、サプライチェーンを多元化することにより、強靭化することの必要性が新たに認識されています。そういう観点からすると、インドが直接投資を誘致したいと考えている中、このセミナーは非常にタイムリーな時期に開催されていると考えます。ただ、一点強調する必要があるのは、サプライチェーンに関わる直接投資の誘致にはグローバルな競争でありまして、インドが投資先として選ばれるためには、魅力ある投資環境の提供が何より重要となります。コロナによって、コロナは、日本企業各社の投資計画にも影響を与えておりまして、日系企業へのアンケート結果によると、インドでの投資計画を有する企業のうち、予定通り進めると回答した企業は 10% に満たない状況となっています。そういう意味では、今こそインドが Ease of Doing Business を向上させるということが、以前よりも増して重要となっております。 本年3月、ジェトロがインドに進出している日系企業向けにアンケートを取ったところ、インドをグローバルな輸出ハブとして見る傾向が増えてきてはいるものの、インドからの輸出を拡大する上での障害として3つ掲げられております。価格競争、品質課題、時間的コストの3点です。例えば、価格競争については、労働コストの上昇や利用しにくい原産地規則を盛り込んだ FTA、物流コストの高さなどが掲げられ、品質課題については、部品の品質の低さと、それに伴って輸出に必要なスタンダードに届かない、あるいは道路舗装状態が悪いので、製品が壊れやすい、あるいは部品が壊れやすいといった点が挙げられました。時間的コストについては、不十分なインフラによる物流、さらには税関手続きの遅延など、行政手続きにかかる時間の長さといったところが課題として挙げられています。また、4月末にコロナの影響について、インド進出日系企業向けにアンケートを取ったところ、やはり物流が整っていないということが挙げられており、これらの課題を見て思うのは、まさにコロナの前においてもすでに問題となっていたようなインドのビジネス環境の課題が非常に大きくなっているということであり、これらのところを改善するというところが、まさに産業競争力の強化につながるというところであります。さて、昨年12月に梶山経済産業大臣がインドを訪問した際、ゴヤル商工大臣と会談をしまして、新たな取り組みとして日印産業競争力パートナーシップを立ち上げました。このパートナーシップの枠組みの下で、インドの産業競争力強化に向けた取り組み、インドに進出している日系企業のビジネス環境整備、グローバルサプライチェーンに参画することの重要性等について議論を行っております。この議論の中で、インド政府と州政府が一緒になってビジネス環境整備に取り組もうという前向きな姿勢が感じられております。インド政府にはさらなるビジネス環境整備に尽力していただきたく、また経済産業省としてもこのパートナーシップの枠組みも活用しつつ、日印双方にとってウィンウィンとなるような関係構築に向けて尽力していきたいというふうに考えております。今回のセミナーでは、中央政府、州政府からインドに投資することの魅力についていろいろな説明があるというふうに承知しております。このセミナーが一つのきっかけとなって、日印の産業連携が前進することを期待してご挨拶とさせていただきます。以上です。
Today, amid the spread of COVID-19, economic activity is shrinking.
Suchiya-san, please unmute.
Today, amid the spread of COVID-19, economic activity is shrinking. I would like to pay my respect to the government of India for organizing this meaningful webinar despite the current situation. India has overtaken Japan and become the world's second largest steel producer. Domestic demand for steel in India is on an upward trend, particularly in the infrastructure development and automotive sectors. In addition, the Indian government is planning to expand crude steel production capacity to 300 metric tons by 2030. Japanese steelmakers' investment in India has also been active. For example, JFE Steel has a stake in JSW, and Nippon Steel has established a joint venture with Tata Steel. Nippon Steel has also acquired Essa Steel in collaboration with ArcelorMittal in December last year. In light of the corona crisis, some Japanese companies are rethinking their global supply chains. In some cases, production had to be halted due to the disruption in supply chains overseas. There is renewed awareness for the need to make supply chains more resilient through diversification. The point that I would like to emphasize is that you have to win a global race to attract FDI. To win this race, it is essential to create an attractive investment environment. The corona crisis has also affected Japanese companies' investment plans. In March this year, JETRO conducted a survey of Japanese companies operating in India. Less than 10% of the companies planning to invest in India said they would proceed according to their plans. This result shows that it is increasingly important for India to further enhance the ease of doing business. It was found that While there is an increasing tendency to view India as a global export hub, many companies said there are obstacles that hamper their efforts to expand exports from India. The three main obstacles are price competition, quality issues, and time costs. In terms of price competition, high export costs brought forth by rising labor costs and FTAs that incorporate difficult-to-use rules of origin were raised as issues. Also, in regards to the quality issues, it was pointed out that due to the poor quality of components and parts produced in India, some companies are unable to meet their export standards. Also, it was pointed out that due to the poor road pavement conditions and the rough handling of goods in transit, products are prone to break. As for the time cost, high logistics costs caused by inadequate infrastructure and time-consuming administrative procedures, such as delays in customs procedures, were cited as challenges. In addition, in a survey of Japanese companies operating in India, which was conducted at the end of April, many companies said that inadequate logistics system in India are causing difficulties in their operations. Their responses may have been influenced by the COVID-19 situation. However, it seems to me that many of the issues cited in the questionnaires have been existing for quite some time, even from before COVID-19. I believe solving these issues will lead to India's success in the global FDI race and also enhance India's industrial competitiveness. In December last year, India and Japan launched the Japan-India Industrial Competitiveness Partnership as a new initiative. Under the framework of this partnership, we are engaged in discussions on how we can strengthen India's industrial competitiveness, how we can improve the business environment for Japanese companies operating in India, as well as the importance of participating in the global supply chain. We would welcome the Indian side's efforts to improve the business environment. We too will continue to work hard to build a win-win relationship between Japan and India by utilizing the framework of this partnership.
続きまして、インド政府鉄工省次官補ルチカ・ボビル様より、鉄鋼部門におけるインド政府による促進策及び投資機会についてご講演いただきます。Next, I would like to request Ms. Ruchika Govil, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Steel, Government of India, to give the presentation on government facilitation and investment opportunities in steel sector in India.
Good morning to Mr. Onadaru-san, Mona Kandahar, my colleague from the Embassy of India, friends from the Japanese and Indian steel industry, and colleagues from the state government in India and Invest India. I'm happy to be here to address this August gathering in these difficult times of COVID pandemic and the economic situation being dire, but all countries trying to recover from this pandemic that is unprecedented and that we are facing now. India and Japan have always had a special relationship in that the steel sector of India and Japan have had an even more deep relationship. This is witnessed by the large number of joint ventures, old and new, that exist. Today, I connect with you to take this relationship further. Our priorities and policies, as laid out by our Prime Minister in these peculiar, unprecedented times, talk of India playing an important role in the global value chains, the global value-added chains. India being Atmanirbhar, which broadly means self-reliant, is a priority our Prime Minister has laid out for us. It does not mean being inward-looking, but India forging new ties and strengthening the existing ties to be a part of the global ecosystem. This idea being local, going global. In this context, I feel that there is an immense scope for deepening our ties. The Indian industry, the alloy industry already has ties with the Japanese industry. We acknowledge the expertise of the Japanese steel industry to provide high quality, high grade, value added steel.
Ruchika, would you like to share the presentation?
I will come to that a little later.
Okay, okay.
Now, there could be a cause in our future relationship, either increasing the number of alliances in the field of steel joint ventures with increased participation of the Indian steel industry and more participation from the Japanese steel industry, which has not yet forged a relationship with the Indian steel industry. Indians are ready to forge this partnership. There is also a case for having more product lines in the existing joint ventures. Some of these joint ventures have been now in play for more than a decade, and there could be a scope for having more products that they could jointly produce. And thirdly, there is also a case for further value addition, downstream production, where alliances already exist. We hope that Japan sees and works with India to make India the production hub for exports to Southeast Asia and Africa for the steel and steel-related products. India has an inherent advantage in terms of ores, alloys, land, skilled population, democracy, and evolved system of law and legal frameworks. India also has enough demand for internal consumption. India has the advantage of the 3 Ds, as my Prime Minister likes to call them: the demand, the demography, and the democracy. India has, in the past year, each year we see imported about 6 to 7 million tons of steel at a value of about 750 million US dollars from Japan. Most of this import is for the auto sector. 50% of it is in fact for the auto sector. 10% are for electric related products and electric steel, and 5% for API grade. These are in the nature of alloy flats being about 25% and plate coils being 15%, nuts and bolts being about 10%, etc., etc. The list goes long, which we will share. India is setting up steel clusters to address the issue of having more joint ventures or deeper joint ventures. Now, these steel sectors are to be set up in 5 states in Eastern India. During the course of the day, my colleagues from the state governments will also elaborate. I have with me here my colleague Aman Sharma, who has worked hard on setting up this cluster policy. This policy, this project we call the Purvodaya project, and Aman here will shortly be discussing with you what he has set out as the roadmap for the Purvodaya projects. India affords a lot of opportunities. There are advantages to this country, and there are priorities of the government projects. Projects of about 1 lakh crores was identified for infrastructure development. There are a spate of projects that are to be initiated currently or shortly, which will have huge steel demands. In these 3 regards, I would invite the various players, MeitY, to engage with the Ministry of Steel, Government of India, or with our embassy with Mr. Mona Kandahar to discuss how to take these projects forward. My colleague from MeitY, who I just heard, also flagged certain important issues or concerns which he feels the Japanese industry has and that need to be addressed. I thank him for addressing these issues and bringing them to our notice. We would like to engage with him deeper and further on these issues. We are aware that to attract FDI, today we have to compete with a host of other countries who are also willing to forge a relationship with Japan. But I would like to here draw your attention that India and Japan have been friends for many a decades. This relationship is special. If there are any stumbling blocks or if there are any obstacles, I think we can work together to iron them out. We have later in the day Invest India also. Invest India is a body which actually talks across the ministries, across the state governments to address the issues of investors. The issue of logistics that he has brought out that there being poor handling, high costs, time-consuming customs, inadequate logistics, etc., are surely matters we will urgently address through Invest India, through state governments, through central government, to address any concern. And we would not like to address them in generality, but we would like to address them in the specificity of the steel sector, of a joint venture that is proposed to be set up. In fact, the Purvodaya project looks at the 5 eastern states only for the purpose of solving similar issues. They are port-based or close to the iron ore hubs, or for ease of doing business, there are opportunities there which the state governments are willing to address. We are keen to make India an attractive investment opportunity, to provide an environment which is conducive to investments in joint ventures. We are aware that the large steel producers already have a good footprint in the country, and their feedbacks are very important to us. We do engage with them, and we will continue to engage with them. However, the smaller steel producers who are also producing alloy steels is where we would like to invite them in case they do not have a presence in the country, or if they have a presence in the country, to take it further. With the eye on ease of doing business, the government has been trying to iron out each and every obstacle that comes in the way. One by one, these have been lowered. As my colleague Mona Kandahar in her first presentation pointed out, the measures that have been taken for the mining industry, measures that have been taken for the coal industry, measures that are being taken in terms of furthering investments, banking procedures, insolvency codes, etc. A lot of measures have been taken, but if we need to take further measures to improve this, we would be doing this shortly. Your inputs are vital, and I seek continuous engagement in this regard. I think we have a huge case for a beautiful relationship which has already existed, and to take it further. I would now like to request Aman to talk for a few minutes regarding the Purvodaya project that he has worked on and drawn the framework which the state governments are operationalizing and will be talking about later. Aman, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. As we all know, that the eastern part of the country, comprising of West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Andhra Pradesh, they are one of the major steel producing states in the country. And cumulatively, these 5 states contribute almost 60% of steel making capacity in the country. And this is all set to increase in the coming few years. Now, why the eastern sector of the country is important, and why the government of India is working hard towards promoting more investments in this region as far as steel making is concerned, there are basically 2 reasons for that. Number one reason is this region is extremely rich in the raw materials which are required for steel making, primarily iron ore, coal, both coking coal and thermal coal, and minerals like manganese, chromite. These are all found in abundance in these states, and this is one of the major reasons why steel making has traditionally happened in these states since a long time. And the second advantage of this region is very good logistics available in this area, especially rail lines. And now the government of India is also developing the waterways, so that the logistics cost, which Deputy DG Meti just pointed out, that high logistics cost is inhibiting factor as far as manufacturing in India is concerned. But the Eastern India, definitely the logistics is far better than other areas of the country. And now the government of India is investing a lot in further improving this logistic facilities in this region, especially railways is investing in a big way to connect the coal fields and the iron ore producing mining region to the steel making areas. And already the work is nearing completion in several of the rail projects. And a number of slurry pipeline projects are also coming up in this area. Already we have a big slurry pipeline network in this area, which is existing. But a lot more slurry pipeline projects are already underway. And this would further reduce the logistics cost substantially. And another development that has taken place in the area is the setting up of Jagdishpur, Haldia, Bokaro, Dhamra gas pipeline project. The phase 2 of this project, which is almost 1,800 kilometers long. And this will basically connect the Dhamra port to all the major industrial belts in this area, both Jharkhand as well as Odisha, and going right up to West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh. And this pipeline project is going to be completed in the later part of this year itself. And the capacity of this pipeline network is 16 million metric standard cubic meters a day. And this will further reduce not only the logistics cost, but also the operational cost of the industries operating out of this region. And within this background, the Ministry of Steel has worked out a project called as the Purvodaya project, in which we aim to enhance the steel making capacity of this region, as well as promote steel clusters. The steel cluster policy is already in the advanced stages of being notified, and it will be soon made public by the Government of India. It will be notified. We expect that to happen shortly. And under this, a number of steel clusters are going to be promoted. And we are working very, very closely with a few state governments. And the first such cluster is being planned in Kalingnagar, which already has a number of steel plants operating in that area. And we would like to attract investment from Japanese investors to set up not only specialty steel plants in this area, owing to the various advantages that I've already cited, but also to help us create an ecosystem which will basically not only serve the integrated steel plants which are already there, but also consume the steel that is being produced from these steel plants. And also, we would like to attract investment in greenfield steel making from the Japanese investors. The steel plant need not be large in size, but they can be small in size also, and utilize the raw material availability, logistics availability, which is in abundance in this area, to the advantage. And as regards the ease of doing business is concerned, the policy is precisely being rolled out for this very purpose, so that the ease of doing business is further enhanced, and the issues regarding delay in the execution of projects and all is taken care of. So we would again like to mention that this is a great opportunity that the Eastern India offers, and steel making can be done very, very economically here, and the huge market that India offers is available for the investors. That is all I have.
What?
You did not mute yourself.
Thank you, Aman, for a deeper analysis of the clusters. I think the state governments will be talking about it further as to what steps each cluster is hoping to undertake. I would like to say that India is very focused in improving its ease of doing business. In these difficult times of COVID, also measures and steps have been taken. There are reasons why we feel India is a good destination. In this regard, we have a PPT, which I would request Minister ENC to share with all the participants. I think we are running late on time, so we cannot discuss each slide of the PPT, but in spirit, we have discussed the points. So Mona Kandahar, if I could request you to share this with the participants later. As a concluding remark, I would just like to say, India's growth story cannot be complete without the involvement and cooperation of friends such as Japan, with a special mention to the Japanese steel industry. We invite Japan industry to come to India for Make in India, Make for India, and to make for the world. We assure the support of the government, the state governments, and Invest India in all this regard for providing support and a level playing field. Thank you.
インド政府は2031年までに1280億ドルを投資し、インドの製鉄能力を年間300メトリックトンにまで拡大させようと計画しています。また、インドでは今後10年間から12年間で220億ドル相当の製造機械が必要とされる見込みです。このような状況を考えると、強力な技術的ノウハウ、重要な製鉄機械に関する高度な設計、製造能力、研究開発能力を持った日本企業がインド企業と連携し、インドの産業用地やクラスターに工場を設立するための機会が豊富にあると言えます。現在、インド東部開発計画が実施されており、国道、鉄道、港湾、石油、天然ガス、鉄鋼産業の開発に力が入れられています。インド東部の5州、オディシャ、チャティスガール、ジャールカンド、ウエストベンガル、アンドラプラデッシュの5州は、インドの製鉄の 60% を占めています。この地域には、鉄鋼やコーキングコール、サーマルコール、マンガンなどの、その原材料が豊富であり、また鉄道や水路といったその、ロジスティックスが大変発達しています。そして、ダムラ港と、さまざまな州の主要地を結ぶ、ガスパイプラインも、設けられました。その特殊鋼だけではなく、日本の鉄鋼メーカーの皆様には、その他の分野にも投資を考えていただきたいと思います。現在、鉄鋼政策のもと、2つのタイプの鉄鋼クラスターが構想されています。そして、今、このパワーポイントについては、皆様にお話しすることができませんでしたが、この鉄鋼省として申し上げたいのは、インドの成功ストーリーは日本の友人の皆様、特に鉄鋼メーカーの皆様なくしては実現しないということです。この新型コロナウイルスのこの状況が続く中、皆様も事業計画を再考していらっしゃると思いますが、ぜひインドへの投資をご協力いただきたいと思います。ありがとうございます。
The presentations from Ministry of Steel have been shared to the participants. インド鉄鋼省からのプレゼンテーションに関しましては、参加者に事前に送付させていただいております。続きまして、日本製鉄株式会社参与小川秀樹様より、鉄鋼部門におけるメイクインインディア事例についてご紹介いただきます。Next, I would like to request Mr. Hideki Ogawa, Executive Counselor, Nippon Steel Corporation, to share their experience of making in India.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ms. Mona Kandal, Minister, Embassy of India, and the host of this event, and distinguished panelists and participants today. My name is Hideki Ogawa, Executive Counselor of Nippon Steel, and then also being in charge of the Indian business of Nippon Steel. Today, thank you very much for giving us such opportunity. It's a great honor for us to make such presentation in front of you. Prior to starting my presentation, I would like to show our appreciation of the effort by Indian government to fight with COVID-19 in various fields, which will enhance our feeling a lot. Thank you very much. So now, based on the presentation pack, I'd like to begin with my presentation accordingly. First of all, this stands for the picture of SR Steel. This is the picture of Hajira complex, steel complex, main hub of the manufacturing. And then also this picture stands for the Hajira Steel Complex as well. And then now let me move to the some outline of the SR Steel. Business scale. Establishment is 1976, and the nominal capacity stands for 9.6 million ton per year. The number of employees approximately 4,000 persons here. Locations. Please look at the right-hand side. You can see the left-hand side of the diamond of the shape of the Indian continent. You can see Hajira in the shape of a star in the left-hand side. This is the main integrated steel. And then down below, Pune downstream rolling plant also there. And then to feed, to supply the raw material of such integrated steel mill, we have two hubs in eastern part. One is Paradeep, the eastern one in Odisha state, and then Vizag. These two plants is located to produce pellet iron to be fed to Hajira integrated steel mill. And then the very left-hand side downside, you can see the location map of India. The thicker color stands for the heavier consumption in steel. So the location of Hajira integrated steel is very close to the consumption area all over the India. So this is the SR steel outline. It's also this explains the facilities of this plant. Eastern area, as I explained, starting from beneficiation plant in Kirandul and Dabna, and using the slurry pipeline introduced by Minister of Steel, uh, and the eastern part, like a Vizag and Paradip, we make pelletization here. And then to feed such pelletizing pellet products by sea, we bring in such pellet products to Hajira Steel Works, starting from blast furnace and then Corex and the Midrex. And then next is the steel making process based on using the facilitation of con arc and then electric arc furnace. Then we feed the liquid steel into hot strip mill and a plate mill. Also, we have thin slab caster and a hot strip mill. This is a combination mill from the casting process and then hot strip making process. And then based on these so-called substrate products, we produce on downside pickling, cold rolling, and then hot dip galvanizing products. And then some of them to be manufactured into color-coated products, and then some for pipe products. Moving to the composition of the products, or diversification of the products. Out of the total sales volume, 40 or amount, 48% stands for the hot roll coil sheet. This is a major material for various sort of consumption usage in India and then all over the world. And then some of them to be changed the shape into cold roll steel and the hot dip galvanized as well, as I explained. This slide stands for the summary of the joint acquisition with ArcelorMittal. Outline of the joint venture. The name is ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India, changed from previous name SR Steel India Limited. The head office located in Hajira, Gujarat. Total cash injection together with ArcelorMittal, we infused in total 500 billion Indian rupee. Out of this, 420 stands for the repayment of the existing debt, and then 80 billion stands for the initial working capital, and then capital expenditure after the acquisition. Timeline: we started raising the hands in October 2017, based on the in line with the IBC process. And then we made the first bidding, a so-called submission of resolution plan. And then March 2018, Nippon Steel and ArcelorMittal executed a joint venture formation agreement. And then we made a second bidding on the same year in April. And then finally, that same year in October, the committee of the creditors selected ArcelorMittal as a successful applicant, which means this our partnership will be selected, has been selected as a applicant. And then after certain like a move during the court, and then finally, Indian Supreme Court approved a resolution plan made by ArcelorMittal and then us, and then finally we completed the transaction in the name of closing. The joint venture structure are described in the right-hand side. Nippon Steel has the 40% of the ownership as percentage, while ArcelorMittal has 60%. Also, two companies has ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India under equity method affiliate, but in the name of equity method affiliate. And then both company will nominate the same number of directors. And then ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India will be managed by both companies under equal partnership umbrella. So both companies consolidated, as I explained, an equity method affiliate. This is the very rough summary of the joint acquisition. Resolution plan. After acquisition, we committed the certain resolution plan to make this company revive. Starting from the please have a look at the very right-hand side. We started from 6.5 million ton of the actual production, and then which will be enlarged more than 10,000 or 12,000 or 15,000 in the future. This is the commitment to the public. The background of the acquisition, let me briefly explain. As introduced by Minister of Steel and then Embassy of India, still we have great expectation on the growth of the steel demand in India. Now, our understanding steel demand is approximately 100 million ton, but maybe in the future, according to the steel plan, steel policy, this will be surged into 230 within in the year 2030. Also, population increase and then demand per capita, as introduced, around 70 kilogram per capita will be increased into approximately 160 in the future. So we have very great expectation on the growth or expansion of the demand in India. And then the second attractiveness of the Indian market. Yes, we have great expectation of the growth of the infrastructure field. So especially having a look at the right-hand side graph, infrastructure demand forecast, according to the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry information, we can see that South India, including India, has a great number, will have the great number of the demand in the future. The third attractiveness of the Indian steel market is high domestic production rate. Please have a look at the right-hand side. This figure stands for the movement of the domestic consumption, and then also the source, and then its source. While having the big increase of this domestic demand, the major part will be covered by domestic production. Imports, the volume of the import is so not a lot stable, but mainly such huge surge of domestic demand increase will be covered by domestic production. So this is a very strong reason for us to be an insider in India. And next attractiveness or rationale for us to conduct such acquisition is the progress of industry realignment, as explained. And then please have a look at the right-hand side. In India, the composition of top 3 companies is still low. In Japan, top 3 company has 80% of the total supply market share. So India will have the great opportunity to enhance by intensively squeezing the kind of like a bleeding the some stronger and bigger steel mills in the future. So thanks to the introduction of the IBC, the expected consolidation is now happening. So yes, referring to SRC as well, and the Bhushan Steel and BPSL, these are consolidated into the existing other stronger company. So this is also our rationale to conduct such acquisition. So in summary, taking the advantage of the promising demand growth potential in India, and also supported by the government policy, high domestic production ratio, and also progress of the steelmakers' realignment. And then together with these advantage or rationale, under the scheme of equal partnership with ArcelorMittal, NSC long-term business partner, having abundant experience in business reconstruction, and then NSC decided to enter into Indian market as a domestic manufacturers, with a view to further expanding the production scale so as to contribute to the growth of Indian economy and the society. This is the kind of outline of the acquisition. Thank you very much for listening. That's all from my presentation. Thank you.
本日は SR スティールの共同買収とその背景についてお話をします。私たちが買収した SR スティールは1976年に創業された鉄鋼メーカーで、鋼材消費の多いインド西部のグジャラート州のハジラに鉄源一貫製鉄所を保有しています。製品ポートフォリオは鋼板系を中心とした多様な展開となっています。日本製鉄とアルセロールミッタルはイコールパートナーシップで合弁会社のアルセロールミッタル日本スティールインディアを運営しています。合弁会社の出資比率は日本製鉄が 40%、アルセロールミッタルが 60% で、両社が同数の取締役を指名し、事業はイコールパートナーシップで運営されています。両社とも持ち分法適用会社として連結されています。再建計画は設備投資による生産性の向上と生産規模の拡大を目的としています。具体的には、既存案件であるコークス炉や CSP のための設備投資計画の完遂や鉄源工程への投資による生産能力の大々的な規模拡大を目指しています。共同買収の背景についてですが、インドの鉄鋼市場は高い成長性とポテンシャルを持っています。経済成長及び人口増加を背景に工業化・都市化が進んでいます。2017年に制定された国家鉄鋼政策によれば、鉄鋼需要が2018年の9600万トンから2030年には2億3000万トンへと着実に増加する見込みです。特に魅力的なのは、全体の需要の半分以上を占めるインフラ需要です。世界におけるインフラ需要予測においても、予測されているインドを含む南アジアの需要拡大は他地域よりもずっと高くなっています。鉄鋼産業はモディ政権が主導するメイクインインディア政策で重点分野となっているため、高い国際比率が今後も継続することが予想されます。さらに熱塩、熱板、冷塩は現在、通商統制の対象になっています。インド国内の鉄鋼需要の増加は、国内鉄鋼メーカーの供給増でカバーされています。1918年時点で需要の9割を国産品がカバーしていました。私たちは今後鉄鋼需要がインドで伸びる中でも、この構図は変わらないと想定しています。インドの鉄鋼市場は上位集約度が低く、これまで業界再編がほとんど進展していません。他国と比べると市場全体におけるトップメーカーのシェアが比較的低く、最近まで多数の鉄鋼メーカーが存在していました。2016年に倒産破産法が施行されて以来、 多額の負債を抱えた鉄鋼メーカーが買収再建の対象となっており、大規模な業界再編が急速に進むことが予測されています。SR スチールは倒産破産法による買収再建の対象のうちの最大案件でした。今後、上位メーカーへの集約が進み、市場が安定化することが期待されています。日本製鉄は、インド鉄鋼市場の成長ポテンシャル、インドの高い国産比率、業界再編の急速な進行という優位点に注目し、長年のパートナーであり、豊富な事業経験を持つアルセロール・ビッタル社とのイコールパートナーシップの下で SR スチールを共同買収しました。私たちはインド経済と社会の成長に貢献するためにインド国内メーカーとしてインド市場に参入しました。
続きまして、タタスチール戦略担当チーフ、ソメシュ・ビスワス様より、インドにおける鉄鋼部門についてご講演いただきます。Next, I would like to request Mr. Somesh Biswas, Chief Strategy, Corporate Strategy and Planning, Tata Steel, to give the presentation on steel sector in India.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please start your presentation, please.
Thank you. Yeah. Onodeta San, Deputy Director General for Trade Policy, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industries, Madam Mona Khandar, the host of the program, Madam Rujia Govil, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Steel, Government of India, concerned Principal Secretaries of Odisha, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, respected participants, and other dignitaries in the webinar. I am representing Tata Steel, and it's a great opportunity to address the program. And today I'll be presenting on India, a land of opportunity for steel. I know we have extended our time in such, and I will try to limit my presentation to 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. First, I want to share two, three slides on Tata Group and Tata Steel footprint. Then I will be focusing on manufacturing. It needs to stand on the shoulder of mining. And lastly, the steel emerging opportunities and key challenges, specifically focusing on construction and rural India. The Tata Group is a multinational global conglomerate operating for the last 150 years. Also, it has presence in 150 countries, and it has a number of flagship companies having leaders in their areas of operations, like Tata Communications #1, Tata Global Leverage, Tata Motors. Tata Steel is one of the flagship company of Tata Group, and we have been ranked as 9th by World Steel in 2019. Come to next slide. Tata Steel is the second most geographically diversified steel producer. It has produced 30 million tons in 2019. It is present in around 50 countries. And to share a few interesting facts, that Tata Steel is present in the lives of not only Indians, but also citizens across the world. Every 1 in 2 cooking gas cylinders in India is made of Tata Steel. Any car that is made in India and running on the Indian roads is made of Tata Steel. We are also nearly every Gillette blade worldwide contains Tata Steel chrome. So we have been in the businesses across economies and India in specifically. So apart from 4 steel plants located in India in different locations, Tata Steel has also mining play. It has iron ore and coal. Iron ore and coal basically in the state of Jharkhand and Odisha. So we are an integrated steel producers from mines to market. Coming to the next part of the presentation, it was a challenge for me because most of the earlier speakers have touched upon the attractiveness of investing in India. So I thought of getting deep dive into manufacturing and how it should leverage mining and then the diversity of India. So in the second part, I want to highlight the diversity of India in terms of demography, prosperity of states, and how manufacturing will be leveraged. So India has 28 states, and in which there are 22 languages that are spoken as per the constitutional approved in India. But there are around 100 plus dialects, 2000 ethnic groups. The population size of states varies. Uttar Pradesh being say 200 million odd compared, and Sikkim being 0.6 million. So the states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and West Bengal being in the Indo-Gangetic plain, it has been more agriculture based and highly populous. There is also a huge range in terms of economic development. If you see on the right side, the number 3 graph, the per capita income varies from say 26,000 Indian rupees to 2,73,000 Indian rupees. And the most of the prosperous states are in the west, north, and south. Coming to the next slide. The map 4 shows the share of industry for each states in terms of gross value added of the state. As we are aware, industry can be broken up into manufacturing and construction. So the slide 5, the map 5 and map 6 are basically on manufacturing and construction. Those states like Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, as the earlier speaker was saying, was rich in mineral resources. So due to which heavy industries like steel came up in these states. States like Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and Sikkim benefited from the incentives that were given to hilly states. And that's why the manufacturing grew in those states. Coming to slide 9, this is basically the mineral map of India. Earlier speaker has talked about India is bestowed of a lot of minerals, but I want to highlight that India has high-grade iron ore and also coal and lignite. Coal is predominantly thermal coal, but 90% of the coking coal, which is used for blast furnace process, is in the state of Jharkhand. Come to the next slide. So if we integrate mining and manufacturing, so this slide is very important in the sense the x-axis, the chart, the x-axis is the mining gross state domestic product in mining output. The y-axis is the GSDP billion for INR. There is the economic output of the state, and the bubble size, the ball size denotes the GSDP manufacturing. If you can see, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha have high mining output. They are on the right side of the graph, but the balls are of relatively lower size than Maharashtra, which is or Tamil Nadu or Gujarat, which are doing much better in terms of manufacturing. And they are higher in GDP terms also. So it's very important to focus on not only on mining, but manufacturing. And these states have huge potential to actually leverage mining to grow in manufacturing in future. Also, it is evident that a lot of steel that is being produced in these states has to travel to the other states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu for being consumption. So transportation cost is being incurred by steel producers in serving those markets. So coming to the last portion of my presentation. So this is basically a context setting slide, and it has been already talked about that India wants to have capacities of 300 million ton by 2030. The consumption being of 230 odd million ton, and it will like to be an export hub in Southeast Asia and Africa and other economies. The per capita income, per capita consumption of steel from 74 odd kg per capita, India wants to target to 158 kg per capita. That is the main challenge that India has in order to actually fructify the Vision 2030. But India is currently the second largest producer and consumer of world in the world as per WSA World Steel Association in 2019 report. So the main challenge, the challenge is to increase the per capita consumption. So my focus would be to increase the per capita consumption in construction and in rural India. So just like any developing economy, construction consumes the maximum steel in India. It consumes around 60% of the steel. And construction goes into basically three segments, which are real estate, the residential and commercial, infrastructure, and industrial, as we all know. The fact is that there are a lot of steel-intensive construction that is possible. That is a possibility. But India has little bit of deficiencies, which are highlighted in the next slide. So basically, three deficiencies that I can talk about is lack of availability of steel products. Okay, so we'll be sorting this out based on the capacities that we are putting in and the downstream facilities that we'll have. But the worrying factor is the lack of knowledge. So what happens, a lot of structural engineers do not use steel in their building designs because maybe of lack of availability also, but over the years they have been designing with more of cement intensive construction, and then there's lack of fabrication capability. So in the process of whole construction, there are a few stakeholders like the client, the architect, the structural engineer, the fabricator, and the contractor. So the information flow, not only in terms of design and the feedback, has to be seamless, as shown on the left side. But in India, there could be improvement. It is improved in large projects of high-rise buildings and infrastructures, but for medium and small projects, as the same agency is playing the part of 2-3 roles, so there is optimality. So if these things changes, then we can actually increase the steel in construction, the steel intensive construction in a much more way. Coming to rural India, the steel use in rural India is suboptimal, I would say. The 74 kg per capita steel use in rural in India, and if you break that up, rural India only consumes 19 kg per capita, and most of the India lives in rural. 70% of India almost lives in rural, as I'm aware of. So there's a huge opportunity to give solutions in the agricultural space, the housing space, the energy solution, water sanitation, and storage solutions. So the recent study shows that the construction, which is housing construction, and construction is community construction, actually takes into account 64% of steel demand in rural, and out of the 19 kg per capita, that is 17 million tons odd that is being consumed in rural India. So this can be increased significantly, and there is also shortage in rural housing supply. There are a lot of rural housing which are mud and thatched and tiles, which can be converted to not only RCC but more steel intensive construction, which can be made into modular steel doors, PEB pre-engineered buildings. But this will happen as the disposable income of rural India increases, and we as steel players can provide solutions which are believable and can last for 40 to 50 years for the lifetime of the customer. So to actually address these issues, the Indian steel companies need to transgress to downstream facilities, not only for steel production, but ultimately construction, building ownership, and building proper management. So we can learn from our Japanese peers like JFE, POSCO, and Nippon Steels, who are actually there. but a lot of other companies like Tata Steel can collaborate, and actually we can work together towards fulfilling the steel appetite in construction in rural India. Last is in summary, as everybody is saying, India is young and with a large population base, the growing market, there's a huge appetite for infrastructure and urbanization, propelling the steel demand. The diversity across states in terms of steel demand is there, and the manufacturing can be leveraged. Mining can be leveraged to have more manufacturing near the mines or near the mineral assets, and so that the finished goods can travel, not the basic goods of steel need to travel to the markets. The markets are far placed because India is a large geography. There's abundance of high grade iron ore. There's a transparent method on allocation of mineral leases that has been already talked about. There's availability of competitive labor. The pro-industry regulatory environment is there. Government is very pro-industry. Significant scope in new steel solutions in construction is possible. The streamlining of the supply chains, developing steel-intensive solutions and standardization will help steel intensity increase. Huge opportunity for innovative solutions lies in rural India. Steel companies need to work closely with customers to create a seamless industry value chain. Some cost disadvantages are there as challenges, like high transportation cost, high industrial power cost, levies and tax on raw material, import duty on coal and other stuff, and which this government of India is actually looking at, and hopefully these things will be addressed and India will be made into a good opportunity, a land of opportunity for steel. Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to present.
タタスチールは113年の歴史を持つ多国籍企業であり、世界で2番目に大きな地理的多様性を持つ鉄鋼メーカーです。インドでは国内4カ所に製造施設があります。年間粗鋼生産量は 31.15 トンで、約50カ国で商取引を行っています。インドや世界の日常生活で見られる鉄鋼を使った製品の多くにはタタスチールの金属が使われています。タタスチールは原材料事業も行っており、高度な技術を駆使して低コストの石炭やクリーンコール、鉄鉱石、クロマイト、マンガン、ドロマイトを含む多様な鉱物の持続可能な再興生産を行っています。28の州と8つの連邦直轄地を持つインドは多様性に富む国です。また、インドはクロマイト、重晶石、石炭、ボーキサイト、鉄鉱石、亜鉛マンガン、アルミなどの世界的な生産地です。インドの経済成長を最大化するためには、工業と製造業に焦点を当てる必要があり、特に鉱物の自国消費を促進する必要があります。インド政府は2030年までの鉄鋼産業の長期的な規模拡大を目指すビジョン2030を推進しています。インドは世界でも第2位の鉄鋼生産国であり、また消費国でもあります。インドでは鉄鋼の 60% が建設部門で消費されているため、建設部門においては鉄鋼集約度を高める多大な機会があります。インドで鉄鋼集約度を強化していくためには、建設エコシステムの欠陥を解決しなければなりません。主な欠陥としては、知識の欠如、製品の供給入手可能性の欠如、そして製造能力の不足が挙げられます。具体的には、鉄鋼造に関する専門教育が大学で行われていないことなどから、鉄骨造のノウハウを持つ技師の数が少ないこと、また、梁などを含む大型構造材などのサプライヤーの数が少ないこと、そしてソリューションの限定性や総合的でない設計といった問題に対処する必要があります。また、人口の 70% が住むインドの農村部には大きな商機があります。農村部では鉄鋼使用が最適化されていないため、鉄鋼メーカーにはあらゆる分野のソリューションに参入する機会があります。貧困レベルの改善が進むにつれ、例えば、わらぶき屋根の家を近代的な住宅に建て替えるといった需要が高まることが予想されています。インドの鉄鋼メーカーは鉄鋼使用を促進するために下流産業に進出しています。私たちはこの分野のパイオニアである 日本の鉄鋼メーカーから多くを学べると思います。インドは人口が多く、市場も成長している若い国であり、インフラ開発、都市化が鉄鋼需要を後押ししています。インドは鉱物資源の豊富な国であり、工業を土台とした製造業において豊富な機会があります。インドの鉄鋼業の利点としては、低コストの労働力が利用可能であること、建設分野における新たな鉄鋼ソリューションがあること、サプライチェーンの合理化、鉄鋼集約度の強化、農村部における鉄鋼集約度の強化といった機会が豊富である点が挙げられます。不利な点としては、高い輸送費や産業用電力費、原材料に課される税や原料炭などに課される輸入関税など、費用に関連する問題が挙げられます。インド政府はこの問題についても今対処を考慮していますので、これから鉄鋼の投資の機会を皆様にご検討いただければと思います。
続きまして、ジャールカンド州産業担当次官、プラウィン・クマール・トッポ様より、ジャールカンド州における投資機会についてご講演いただきます。Next, I would like to request Mr. Praveen Kumar Topo, Secretary, Department of Industry, State of Jharkhand, to give the presentation on investment opportunities in Jharkhand.
Good afternoon. I am Praveen Topo, Secretary, Industry, Government of Jharkhand.
Sir, your camera is covered. Your face is visible.
Good afternoon. I am Praveen Topo, Secretary, Industry, Government of Jharkhand. Jharkhand is among one of the most progressive states in India. It is endowed with almost 40% of India's mineral wealth. It is ranked #1 in coal reserves in our country. As far as iron ore reserves are concerned, it is ranked #2 in the country and produces roughly around 20% of the total steel produced in India. It has been ranked 4th in ease of doing business in India. Especially the labor reforms in these states are quite comprehensive, and they are model for rest of the states in India. It is a very mineral rich states where you find all the natural resources. This is the map of Jharkhand, and these are some of the minerals where we rank #1 to 4 in the country. Roughly 27% of the coal is produced is found in Jharkhand. Iron ore, as far as iron ore is concerned, it is 26%. Apatite rock phosphate is 27%, cobalt 24%, silver ore 5%, nickel 5%, copper ore is almost 20% of total reserves in India. Granite is 6%. So putting all the minerals together, Jharkhand has the reserves of almost 40% of total minerals wealth in India. This is very important as far as the steel production is concerned, because the main minerals needed in the steel sector, that is the iron ore and coal, are found in Jharkhand abundantly. It is a very developed steel manufacturing ecosystem where we have a robust research and education institutions in the field of iron and steel, in the form of Indian School of Mines, Mecon, Tata Steel R&D Center, SAIL R&D Center, CMPDI, and others. We have a very established steel base where many large steel plants are working in the states, led by Tata Steel. Then there is Vedanta, JSPL, SAIL, Rungta Steel, and many others. There is abundant availability of raw material, especially coal and iron ore reserves in the state. Roughly 27% of the coal reserves of the country are found here, and 26% of iron ore reserves are found in Jharkhand. And it is supported by a very competitive and dynamic policy framework, where the government provides a very sound facilitator, role of facilitator, and the major players in the steel sector, they are working in this sector for last many years, and they have found the working environment quite conducive in the state. There is a large industrial market for the steel produced in Jharkhand, and we have a very reliable infrastructure, both in industrial as well as civil. It produces around 20 million metric ton of steel. These are the major. There is a map of Jharkhand, and where they are located major steel players which are located in Jharkhand. As you can see, the data is from the annual report of Ministry of Steel 2016-17, which shows that it produces roughly around 21% of the total steel produced in the country. Jharkhand is a landlocked state, but it has a very sound transport infrastructure, and it is quite well connected with other states, which is needed for the transportation of the manufactured steel is concerned. As far as road connectivity is concerned, 15 national highways pass through the state. Major industrial activity in the state is concentrated in an area which is south of National Highways 2, which connects Kolkata with Delhi via Jharkhand. As far as rail connectivity is concerned, the total railway length of railway lines is 2,182 kilometers. It has a very extensive goods handling facilities at Ranchi, Bokaro, Dhanbad, and Jamshedpur. And dedicated eastern freight corridor will pass through Jharkhand, which is almost on the verge of completion. And the air connectivity is there, where Ranchi is the major airport, and with other airports coming at Bokaro and Dumka. Though it is a landlocked state, the port connectivity is there at a distance of around 425 kilometers or so. Recently, the multimodal terminal in Sahibganj in the northern part of the state is also operational, which is part of National Waterways number 1. So which connects it to the port of West Bengal. The major steel players in Jharkhand, as you know, Tata Steel is, which is number 1 in India, has a presence in Jharkhand since the year 1907. It is one of the world's largest steel manufacturers. It has a state-of-the-art plant in Jamshedpur with a capacity of 10 MT per annum. It is also one of the oldest and highly industrialized city, Jamshedpur. Then we have Jindal Steel and Power, which is again a leading player in steel, power, mining, oil and gas, cement and infrastructure. It plans to invest around 10 billion US dollar in setting up a 12 MT per annum integrated steel plant and 2,640 captive power plant in the state, in the district of Ramgarh. It has already commissioned a wire rod mill of 0.6 MTPA and a bar mill of 1 metric ton per annum. SAIL, that is the Steel Authority of India Limited. It is one of the leading steel making government public sector unit. It operates its plant in Bokaro in our state, and it has got a very well equipped R&D center for iron and steel in Ranchi, and an in-house center for engineering and technology. Then another major player is Vedanta, which has set up a 2.5 million ton per annum greenfield integrated steel plant in Bokaro district. Its product range includes pig iron, billets, TMT bars, wire rods, and ductile iron pipes. As far as the policy support to the steel industry is concerned, we provide various fiscal incentives through our Industries and Investment Promotion Policy of 2016. The various components of this policy are as given. The major component is the Comprehensive Project Investment Subsidy, where we provide 20% of the investment subsidy in investment made in the MSME sector, that is micro, small, and medium enterprises. Here, the maximum, the cap of subsidy is 2 crore rupees, whereas in the case of non-MSME investment, the cap is 20 crore rupees, or 20% of the project cost of investment in plant and machinery, whichever is lower. There is a 100% exemption from stamp duty and registration fee. Then we provide incentive for the patent registration assistance also. There is a subsidy for GST. We provide 80% GST subsidy or GST incentive on new MSME units. It is on the net GST payable for the 5 years, and whereas large projects are concerned, we provide 75% of the net GST payable for the 5 years. Then there is another component in the form of interest subsidy, which is 5% of the interest subsidy of the interest paid. So these are the various components of the policy incentives that we provide to all the industries and the steel sector industries operating in Jharkhand will be provided incentives through this policy framework. So Jharkhand is a small state, but it has very high aspirations, and it is aiming very big. And we invite all the investors, especially from Japan, to come and see Jharkhand. It is a very beautiful place. It has many tourist attractions also, and so we invite all of you to come and see Jharkhand and make your plans for investment in the steel sector in our state. Thank you so much.
ジャールカンド州政府産業担当次官フラビン・クマールトッポ氏によるプレゼンテーションのサマリーをお伝えいたします。ジャールカンド州は新しい機会が生まれる場所です。世界で最も鉱物資源が豊かな地域であり、インドの鉱物資源のうち 40% が同州で産出されます。ジャールカンド州政府は同州を世界で最も好まれる投資先の一つにするため、友好的かつ応答性の高い投資環境の整備を目指し、さまざまな改革に取り組んでいます。特にビジネスのしやすさ枠組みの構築やビジネスに好意的な政策の実行は、この方向性に即した進歩的な取り組みです。ジャールカンド州は石炭埋蔵量で国内1位、鉄鉱石埋蔵量で国内2位と、インド国内の鉄鉱生産量の生産の 25% を担うなど、鉄鉱業が盛んです。鉱物資源に恵まれたジャールカンド州では、あらゆる種類の鉱物が採掘されているほか、研究施設や教育機関、確立された鉄鋼産業基盤、利用可能な鉱物資源の存在、政策支援、訓練を受けた労働者や大規模市場といった鉄鋼生産エコシステムがよく発達しています。また、道路や鉄道、空路、水路など輸送インフラも発達しており、タタやジンダルといった国内大手も州内で操業しています。ジャールカンド州は州民に持続可能な発展と幸福をもたらすため、より良いインフラやより迅速な経済発展、産業基盤の強化、そして若者向けの雇用の創出というビジョンの実現に向け力強く前進しています。この機会に皆様をジャールカンド州にご招待いたします。ジャールカンド州は非常に小さな州ですが、大きな野望を持つ州です。ぜひジャールカンド州に投資してください。私たちのパートナーとなり、成長と繁栄を共有しましょう。以上です。
続きまして、オリッサ州産業上席次官ヘマント・シャルマ様より、オリッサ州における投資機会についてご講演いただきます。Presenters are requested to kindly follow the timeline. Next, I would like to request Mr. Hemant Sharma Principal Secretary, Industry, State of Odisha to give the presentation on investment opportunities in Odisha.
Yes. Are you able to hear Odisha? Start. So please start. A very warm welcome to all the participants in today's discussion. On behalf of the Government of Odisha, I am Hemant Sharma, Principal Secretary Industries, Government of Odisha, joined with my Managing Director of Invest Odisha, Shri Nitin Javale, and also my team from Invest Odisha, the Investment Promotion Agency, PwC. We will take a very brief look at what opportunities are available in Odisha for the steel sector and what policy framework and infrastructure framework we have put into place to make steel a vibrant sector in the industrial sectors of Odisha. Next, please. Now, where is Odisha? Odisha is on the eastern seaboard of India on the Bay of Bengal. It is very close to to Kolkata. Because of its location on the eastern seaboard Bay of Bengal, it is directly connected with ports to Southeast Asian region. It is just a 6 hours flying distance from the country of Japan, and it is very well connected in terms of rail, road, port, inland waterways, and other infrastructure to the rest of the country. Locating in Odisha for any industry opens up not only the domestic markets of India, which are growing leaps and bounds, but also the Southeast Asian markets, which are connected very efficiently because Odisha is a coastal state. It is the first state in India in terms of attracting investments in 6 months of the last financial year, as per an estimate given by the Center for Monitoring of Indian Economy. And that is because of good policies, robust political framework, and a very stable financial system in Odisha. It is fast industrializing with industrial sectors and service sector constituting almost 80% of its GSDP. It has a very stable and transparent governance framework. Our Honorable Chief Minister has been leading the state for the last 20 years. We, because of this, enjoy not only a polity stability, but also policy consistency, which helps the investors. If you look at the numbers of the growth rate of GSDP, Odisha has always been growing in the last few years at a rate higher than the national average. Next, please. Now, we have had very good, vibrant relations with investors community of Japan in the recent past. We mounted 2 very big senior delegations to Japan in the year 2017 and 2018. And Japan was the partner country in our Global Investors Summit in 2018, where His Excellency German Ambassador was present with a very large group of Japanese companies, and we have had very vibrant relations with them. Coming to recent times, in the month of February this year, we had a very large delegation of steel industries, in particular steel and petrochemical industries from Japan, led by His Excellency the Ambassador of Japan to India, and we had a meeting with the Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha also. The latest edition of Japanese investment in India, which you also saw in the beginning of today's program, is the ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel investment in India, and as you will see later, they have a very big and a growing footprint in Odisha. Next, please. Now, why Odisha for steel industry? The value proposition for the steel sector in Odisha is based on the foundation of a very strong base of raw material. The availability of raw materials, whether it is iron ore, coal, water, land, and human resources, all these constitute what are called the factors of production. It is a very large, stable, and wide base of raw materials in Odisha. If you take a look at the figures on the left hand, Odisha has 96% of India's chromite resources, 92% of India's nickel resources, 35% of India's iron ore reserves, and 25% of India's coal reserves are in Odisha. And these are located well within reach. These are resources which are exploitable. No wonder that very recently, Odisha carried out a very quick, transparent, fair auction of 23 out of the 24 large mines in India. And today, Odisha, because of this riding on this raw material base, Odisha has a very large capacity of steel making in India today. The capacities of steel making and stainless steel making across the value chain, whether it is from the DRI process or the blast furnace route, continuous casting and value-added products, all taken together. Today, Odisha is the single largest producer of steel in India, and these capacities are growing at a very, very fast rate. Next, please. Now, this is the second value proposition which we have. It is not only about resources, which is a natural advantage we have. It is also about natural seaboard advantage converted into an infrastructure advantage in Odisha. We have 3 large ports fully functional. Paradip Port, which handled largest cargo in India in last financial year. Dhamra Port, which is in the private sector, run by Adani's. Gopalpur Port, which is again in the private sector, run by the Shapurji Palanju Group. And the 4th port, Suvarnrekha Port, which is coming up, is with Tata Steel. So these 4 ports, 3 of which are functional, help you to service the domestic market through coastal routes, as also the Southeast Asian market. These are ports which are modern, they have all the facilities, and they are unclogged as compared to most of the other ports in India. Not only port connectivity, but also rail and road connectivity to the hinterland of India, whether it is to north, east, and central and west of India and south of India. Odisha is very well connected with almost 10,000 kilometers of national highways and a mesh of railway connectivity, so that you can cater to the domestic market in India, which is also growing leaps and bounds. All major industrial clusters in Odisha, particularly in the steel sector, can be reached within a time of 10 hours from the port. The international airport is at the state capital, Bhubaneswar, which is also very well connected to Southeast Asian and to other major international hubs. 11% of India's water resources are in Odisha, and Odisha is a power surplus state with a very large installed capacity of over 17,000 megawatts in the thermal power sector. So Odisha is not only rich in mineral resources, it is also very well provisioned for infrastructure, including the infrastructure for transport as well as for water and power. Next, please. Now, what is the presence of steel industry in Odisha? This is just a snapshot of the major steel producers in India. If there is a steel producer in India, it has a footprint in Odisha. There is no, and the converse is also true. There is no steel maker in India who does not have a footprint in Odisha, because in any case, the mineral resources for any steel making facility in India are actually sourced from Odisha. So we have SAIL, which is the Government of India public sector undertaking. We have Tata Steel, Jindal Stainless, JSW, Tata Steel Bhushan, Bhushan Power and Steel, Jindal Steel and Power, and the list of secondary and tertiary steel producers are too large to be captured in this slide. The latest entrant in our steel footprint is ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, who have given a very detailed account of their acquisitions in India and their future plans of growth in the steel sector in their own presentation. Now, across the value chain, whether it is iron ore mining, iron ore beneficiation, conversion to pellets, steel making in primary as well as in secondary sector, and downstream value addition, you would be surprised to know that today Odisha has attracted a very good number of steel pipe making industries. Why? Because Eastern India, including Odisha, has a very large demand of steel pipes for the large number of gas pipelines and crude oil pipelines and product pipelines which are being laid in India under the Prime Minister's Urja Ganga program. Next, please. Now, today, we are bringing on the table 3 special industrial parks for the steel sector for Japanese investments. The first one is the Kalinganagar Steel Cluster, where Tata Steel is located. There are other large plants like Jindal Stainless Steel, Mesco, and new plants are being set up by secondary steel makers as well as downstream value addition product makers. There we have very well-developed industrial land, more than 10,000 acres in plot sizes from 5 acres to 500 acres. Industrial grade power, quality power, and industrial supply of water is already available. This is a location which is very well connected to 2 ports, both the Paradip port as well as the Gopalpur port through dedicated freight corridors. And it is also very well connected to the hinterland of Orissa, from where the mineral resources come, and also to the demand centers of India in North, West and South India through very efficient rail connectivity. It has a very well functioning logistics hub and other utilities which are required for setting up of industrial investments in a plug and play model. Next, please. The second offering which we have today is for 2 distinct clusters, one being the Gopalpur industrial cluster, where we have more than 1,500 acres of land in a Tata Steel SEZ, in a special economic zone promoted by Tata Steel, just next door to the Gopalpur port. So a very well developed industrial facility where plug and play infrastructure facility is available, and next door to the Gopalpur port, where you can transport the goods to any part in the world. The second proposition is for the Dhenkanal cluster, which is in central Orissa. It is located in between the port and the mineral bearing regions. There we have more than 1,000 acres of land in different plot sizes, as small as 0.4 acres and as big as 10 acres. And these are modular, from 10 acres to 100 acres to 200 acres also. You can have the facility. And look at the location in Odisha's map. These are very near to the Dhamra port as well as to the Paradip port, with dedicated railway lines available to cater to the transport and logistics requirement. Next, please. Now, what is the incentive package? We have seen the infrastructure which is readily available for setting up of steel making or steel plant or ancillary or downstream products. What is the policy framework? As I mentioned, we have not only a good policy, this policy is stable, and the policy, there is consistency. We have never in the past gone back on any of our policies or denied any of the policy provisions, as has been seen in some parts of the world in the recent times. There is a capital investment subsidy, there is a tax reimbursement, there is a subsidy available for skill upgradation of the employees, and interest subsidy, and the usual stamp duty exemptions and exemptions from payment of electricity duty. It is a very well drafted policy framework, and it is the best in its class. If we were to take a look at the infrastructure, the incentives, and the opportunity taken together, the blend of opportunity which is available in Orissa in the steel sector is unique in the country. Nowhere else you would come across this mix of readily available infrastructure and a very positive industrial policy. As I mentioned, we have a very large presence of industries, and these are some of the names which are very well known. Shri Ellen Mittal, who is the chairman and CEO of ArcelorMittal, has had this to say about Orissa's investment climate. Shri N. Chandrasekharan, who is the chairperson of Tata Group, has this to say about Orissa's investment climate. And we also have Shri Sajjan Jindal, who is the chairperson of JSW, and Shri Naveen Jindal, who is the chairperson of JSPL. Now, these are names which are very well known, and their articulation about the success story of Odisha and their positive investment in their positive experience regarding their industrial investments in Odisha are to be seen, to be believed. Our Vision 2030, our government has brought out a Vision 2030 where we are committed to target for 50% value addition in steel and stainless steel. Now, this provides immense opportunities for quality steel makers, for alloy steel makers, for special steel makers. And since the steel production capacity in greenfield and brownfield plants in Odisha also will grow up in a substantial manner, the requirements for ancillary service providers, specialty chemicals, other ancillaries for these steel plants will also grow substantially. Therefore, there are opportunities in mining, in ore beneficiation, in ore pelletization, primary steel making, secondary steel making, ancillary to steel making, and also in downstream products of steel, where the Indian demand is growing at a phenomenal rate. So we welcome you to come to Odisha, and Odisha is the destination for steel sector in India. Thank you so much.
オリッサ州政府産業上席次官ヘマント・シャルマ氏によるプレゼンテーションのサマリーをお届けいたします。オリッサ州は国内製造業への投資流入額において常に上位に入る機会が豊富な州です。パラディープ、ダムラ、コパルプールといった主要開港があるほか、高速道路、鉄道も発達しており、インドの後輩地だけでなく ASEAN 市場へのアクセスも良好です。日本と長い交流を持つ州で、オリッサ州が主催するメイクインオディッシャコンクラーベ2018に日本がパートナー国として参加するなど、近年関係が深まっています。日本企業による大型投資案件も多く、直近ではアルセロール・ミッタル、日本スチール・インディア社が州内2カ所で操業する工場の能力強化に向け、総額290億ドルの投資計画を発表しています。インドの鉱物生産量の約 14% を産出するオリッサ州では、州内各地に鉄鋼産業クラスターが形成されています。中でもカリンガナがある鉄鋼クラスターでは、タタスティールや JSL などの鉄鋼大手が操業しています。13,687 エーカーの事業地があるほか、電力を安定的に供給するための専用送電線も設置されています。さらに近隣を流れるブラフマニ川の水を事業用水として利用できるなど、事業環境が整っています。州政府は金属産業の川下産業の発展を目指すビジョン2030を策定、州内で生産される一次金属製品に 50% 以上の価値を付加するという目標を掲げています。コパルプールやデンカナルなどでも産業クラスターの開発が進められています。州は企業活動の活性化を目指し、ビジネスのしやすさ枠組みを導入するなど、さまざまな取り組みを行ってきました。電力・水道料金が国内でも最も安い水準にあり、国内で最もコスト効率の良い進出先の一つとなっています。また、インド東部の教育の中心地としても知られており、一流の教育機関が高度技能人材を育成、産業に提供しています。何よりもオリッサ州には安定し、透明性のある政府と一貫性のある産業発展促進政策があります。ぜひ、オリッサ州への投資、進出をご検討ください。以上です。
Presenters are requested to kindly follow the timeline. Next, I would like to request Mr. Ryoji Hayashi, Assistant to CTO, MD Office, Mahindra Sanyo Special Steel Private Limited to share their experience of making in India. 続きまして、マヒンドラ産業 CTO 補佐、林良二様より、鉄鋼部門におけるメイキングインディア事例についてご紹介いただきます。林様、よろしくお願いいたします。
はい、承知しました。聞こえておりますでしょうか。では始めさせていただきます。This is Ryoji Hayashi from Mahindra Sanyo Special Steel. Thank you very much for giving this chance to introduce Mahindra Sanyo. Please let me explain in Japanese from now. 改めまして、マヒンドラ産業の林でございます。本日はまず産業特殊製鋼の概要とその事業展開、そして産業特殊製鋼のインドでのスチール事業であるマヒンドラ産業の概要と事業内容、そして現在我々が抱える課題とそれに関するお願い事を少し述べさせていただきます。まず産業特殊製鋼の概要について手短にご紹介いたします。従業員数は連結で6700名余り、単体で1400名弱です。売上は昨年度連結で2600億円でした。事業内容は特殊鋼の紡鋼、継ぎ目なし交換、塑形剤および金属粉末製品の製造販売です。本社および工場は兵庫県の姫路にあり、当社へお越しいただくお客様の多くには、右下の写真の世界遺産姫路城も合わせてご覧いただいております。こちらに産業特殊製鋼の海外展開を示します。海外には地域販売拠点や塑形剤の製造拠点を含めて11社の主要なグループ企業があり、中でもオレンジ色で示すヨーロッパのオバコおよびインドのマヒンドラ産業では 日本と同様、成功から圧延までの一貫事業を行っています。ここで少し産業特殊成功の優れた技術力を紹介いたします。産業特殊成功の特殊鋼は、ベアリングに代表されるように、自動車の動力伝達機構に多く使われています。このような重要保安部品に使われる特殊鋼では、高い信頼性が求められており、そのため、正常度を限りなく向上させた産業独自の極超高正常度鋼の製造プロセス SURP を開発しました。開発、品質、安定供給の観点で、市場から高い信頼を獲得する高信頼性鋼の提供を通じて、社会のさらなる発展に貢献しています。続いて、マヒンドラ産業の紹介に移ります。マヒンドラ産業は、産業特殊成功、インドの自動車大手であるマヒンドラ&マヒンドラ、および三井物産との合弁事業です。2012年に合弁事業を開始し、2018年に産業がメジャーを取得しました。以下会社の概要です。工場はマハラシュトラ州のコポリにあります。右側の地図で濃い青色がマハラシュトラ州であり、西海岸にムンバイ、そしてマハラシュトラ州第2の都市で自動車産業が集積するプネがあります。このムンバイとプネの間のコポリにマヒンドラ産業があります。創業は1962年で、50年以上にわたり特殊鋼を供給してまいりました。年間の売上規模は金額でおおよそ100億ルピー、重量でおおよそ15万トンです。特殊鋼の製造販売を事業としており、圧延鍛造紡鋼およびリング製品を製造しています。こちらがマヒンドラ産業の特殊鋼一貫製造ラインのフロー図です。左上の電気炉にて、スクラップなどの鉄源を溶解する工程から始まり、鳥鍋精錬炉および真空脱ガスにて、溶鋼の品質を作り込んだ後、連続鋳造機あるいはインゴット鋳造にて凝固させ、ブルームおよびインゴットを製造します。このブルームおよびインゴットを3種類の圧延機および鍛造機を用いて所定の形状、寸法に加工した後、必要な熱処理やピーリングなどの二次加工、そして検査を経てお客様へ出荷していきます。また、この鋼材を用いてリング製品の製造も行っております。このような工程で製造した紡鋼およびリング製品をこちらに示す自動車、ベアリング、オイル&ガス、エンジニアリング、また工具、金型、掘削などの各業界に納入しており、お客様から高い評価を得ております。最後に、マヒンドラ産業が抱える課題と、これに関連してインド政府へのお願いを少し述べさせていただきます。一つ目は、現在のコロナ環境下での事業継続についてです。感染拡大予防のためのロックダウンに関連する各種規制により、一部の従業員が出勤できない一方、会社は給与の支払いが必要な状態が続いています。また、1ヶ月以上の操業停止が余儀なくされましたが、電力費のうちの固定費部分の支払いが必要です。ですので、1、日本で実施されているような雇用調整助成金や、2、操業停止期間の電力費の固定費部分の支払いの免除などの政府支援をいただけると、企業の負担を軽減し、事業を継続するためには大変助かります。また、経済活動の大幅な制約や消費マインドの低迷により、事業環境の回復には一定の期間を要してしまうと思われます。ですので、インド政府による3、GST 減免を含む自動車需要の喚起策 などの景気刺激策の実施が大変望まれます。2つ目は電力コストについてです。マハラシュトラ州では電力単価は毎年上昇し続けており、マヒンドラ産業が使用する電力単価は4年間で 25% も上昇しました。加えてマハラシュトラ州の電力単価はインドの他の州よりも10から 30% も高い状況にあります。電気炉業界では電力費は原材料費と並んで最も大きなコストの一つです。電力単価がこのように高い状況下では、電気炉業界が競争力を維持し続けることは困難です。電力に関する規制が複雑なため、安価な民間電力を活用することもなかなかできない状況にあります。ですので、電気炉業界が事業を継続するためには、比較的安価な電力源を使えることが必須となります。3つ目は鉄源となるスクラップについてです。インドでは国内での鉄源の蓄積がまだ十分ではないため、スクラップは海外から多く輸入されております。ですので、インドの鉄鋼業が競争力を維持向上させるためには、国内で発生するスクラップを効率的に回収・活用できる仕組みが早期に整備されることを望みます。マヒンドラ産業がメイクインインディアを通じてインド市場に今後もこれまで以上に貢献するためには、以上のような課題を解決していく必要があると考えております。That is all of my presentation. Thank you very much.
I'd like to start the summary of the presentation by Mr. Ryoji Hayashi, Assistant CTO, Mahindra Sanyo Special Steel. Mahindra Sanyo's parent company is Sanyo Special Steel, which is a group company of Nippon Steel. Sanyo Special Steel was established in 1933. We have offices in 5 cities in Japan, including the headquarters in Himeji and branch offices in Tokyo and Osaka. Globally, we have 11 overseas subsidiaries in 7 regions, but we are manufacturing in 3 regions only, namely in Japan, Europe, and India. Our manufacturing entity in India is Mahindra Sanyo Special Steel. Mahindra Sanyo Special Steel, or MSSSPL, started off as a joint venture of Sanyo Special Steel, Mahindra and Mitsui & Company Limited in 2012. In June 2018, Sanyo acquired the majority of MSSSPL. Our special steel is widely used not only in India, but also in the overseas markets. Major applications of our special steel include automotive, bearing, oil and gas, tool, dye and mining, and engineering. Amid the spread of COVID-19 in India, we are now faced with some challenges. In order for us to contribute more to the Make in India policy, we would like to make the following request to the Indian government. First challenge concerns our ability to continue our business in India. Due to the movement restrictions imposed during the nationwide lockdown, a part of our employees were unable to come to work, but we were obliged to pay full wages. Also, even though we did not use electricity during the lockdown, the basic electric fee was charged in full amount nonetheless. We would like to request the government to support us, for example, by providing us with some sort of employment subsidies or exempting the payment of the basic electricity charges during the period when we suspended our operations. Also, we would like to ask the government to implement economic stimulus measures to stimulate consumption activities, such as a reduction of GST to stimulate demands for automobiles. The second issue is the rising electricity cost. The power rate in Maharashtra is 10 to 30% higher than the other states, and it has been increasing every year. In our case, the overall electricity cost has increased by 25% over the last 4 years. We will be grateful if some consideration is given to this issue, as low power cost is essential for the arc furnace steelmaking. Lastly, we would like to request the government to facilitate upgradation of domestic scrap recycling system. The improved scrap recycling system can foster new types of raw material related businesses in India, thus enhancing the global competitiveness of India's steel industry as a whole. Thank you.
続きまして、チャッティスガル州商務産業局上席次官、マノージ・クマール・ピンガ様より、チャッティスガル州における投資機会についてご講演いただきます。Next, I would like to request Mr. Manoj Kumar Pinga, Principal Secretary, Department of Commerce and Industry, State of Chhattisgarh, to give the presentation on investment opportunities in Chhattisgarh.
Namaskar, everyone. My name is Manoj Kumar Pingwa. I am Principal Secretary, Commerce and Industries, Government of Chhattisgarh. First, I would like to applaud the efforts of Indian Embassy in Japan for organizing another webinar on Indo-Japan cooperation, and would like to thank DPIIT for their relentless efforts in connecting Japanese companies with Indian states. I would also like to thank Minister E&C Embassy of India, Tokyo, for her continued support. Now, without much preface, I would like to give a brief overview of state of Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh is the 9th largest state of India with an area of 135 square kilometers. Our state has abundant natural resources. 44% of the geographical area is covered by forests. State GSTP stands at $46 billion, in which industry contributes for 46%, which has significant portion of manufacturing and mining activities. Chhattisgarh is a new state and it has witnessed significant economic growth over the past few years. State GDP has grown many folds since its inception. Doing business is a pleasant experience in Chhattisgarh. We are currently among the top achievers in ease of doing business in India, thanks to feedback given by the existing industrial units on our single window system. Further, to facilitate investors from Japan, we have appointed dedicated relationship managers and country desks whom you can contact if you require any assistance or if you have any query. We understand that one of the major costs for a new unit is investment in land. Chhattisgarh land rate is economical compared to other states. Further, we have also provided relief in that front. We have recently reduced land rates by 30% and lease rent by 33%. And you can see skilled labor and electricity charges are also competitive in our state. Next, we are located centrally in India and we are very well connected with other parts of India through rail, road and air network. Raipur Airport is only 100 minutes away from all major cities of India. State provides direct access to more than 500 million population through 7 adjoining states, and that creates huge opportunities for companies to directly market their products in the neighboring states. Major ports of the country like Vizag, Paradip, Kolkata, Mumbai are all well connected from Chhattisgarh through road and rail network. Nearest port, Vizag, is just 300 kilometers away from the state borders. Chhattisgarh is home to prestigious engineering, management, Law and Agriculture Institutes of India, the state has 3,000 vocational training institutes, which have trained more than 280,000 youths in last 3 years. This ensures that the industry demand of skilled professionals can be catered from within the state. We have livelihood colleges in all districts to provide quality training to youth of the state. Next. In industrial infrastructure, the state has established industrial infrastructure along with plug and play facilities in industrial areas. State has identified 5,000 acres land parcel for immediate allotment to industries, and if required, we can make easily available parcels of land anywhere in the state. The state exports iron and steel related products to several countries. Chhattisgarh also has 2 inland container depots to support export activities. So although we are landlocked state, we have this facility to compensate for that. Next. If we see the mineral wealth, Chhattisgarh is a mineral rich state, and this is one of the things that we are very proud of. We are among the richest Indian states in terms of mineral wealth, with 28 different major minerals, including diamond and gold are found in our state. State is leading in production of coal with 142 million metric ton per annum, iron ore 30.4 million metric ton, limestone 38.5 million metric ton, bauxite 1369 million metric ton, tin 19,410 kgs, and we are the only producer of tin in our country. We also have transparent and user-friendly online e-auction process. So anybody can apply for mining lease sitting anywhere in the world. Abundance of mineral makes Chhattisgarh an ideal destination for investors in iron and steel, power and engineering sectors. In steel sector, Chhattisgarh has the natural advantage of high-grade hematitic ore in substantial quantity to support iron and steel units for a very long time. It has around 68% of iron content, this iron ore. The state contributes 16% of India's total iron ore production and contributes 12% in India's total steel production. Even during the current pandemic, we have continued operating, and we had produced 2.7 million tons of steel using following all the necessary precautions. Next. Core sector being strength of Chhattisgarh, state produced nearly 14 MTPA of steel in 1920. Bhilai steel plant is under expansion mode, shall be producing 7 MTPA of steel, which is the highest expansion in India by any public sector undertaking. We have 80 plus steel and sponge iron companies that are operating in Chhattisgarh, and majorly they are exporting. Chhattisgarh produces high export quality steel. Japan is also one of the recipients of steel from Chhattisgarh. State exported nearly 6.7 million tons of steel to Japan in last 3 years. We have well-established ecosystem for steel industry. From map, you can see that Chhattisgarh has developed major iron and steel producing belts such as Raipur, Durg, Bilaspur, Raigad, Rajnandgaon, and Bastar. We also have a fully functional steel cluster at Siltara, Raipur. Raipur, Durg, and Bhilai have emerged as hub for iron and steel industries in India. There are more than 100 mini steel plants and rolling mills in and around Raipur. State has around 80 sponge iron units, mainly located in Raipur, Raigad, Bilaspur, and Durg region. Along with iron and steel, coal is also one of the key strengths of Chhattisgarh. Northern districts of Chhattisgarh have large coal reserves and coal mining operations. This gives immense opportunities for steel and allied industries to prosper in Chhattisgarh. You can see some of the logos of some of the companies operating in Chhattisgarh. These are Bhilai Steel Plant, which is a private sector giant. National Mineral Development Corporation, again public sector giant. Jindal, Hira Group, and Sarda, Nico. These are some of the leading companies which are operating in Chhattisgarh. Now let me discuss very briefly on our state's industrial policy. There is a long list of investment opportunities in Chhattisgarh, such as integrated steel plant, mini steel plant, iron and steel industries, and steel rolling mills, etc. There are total 19 types of incentives, subsidies, or concessions which we provide and offer to industries at large. Chhattisgarh offers fiscal and non-fiscal benefits under our current industrial policy, which is valid for a period of 2019 to 2024. The policy was made with an objective to develop Chhattisgarh as an industrial hub. Policy provides financial incentives in the form of interest subsidy, fixed capital investment subsidy, electricity duty exemption, etc. to investors. There is also a provision of bespoke incentives for the companies, which I would like to underline. The company having an investment of more than $13 million, that is equivalent to 100 crore rupees, we have bespoke policy for them. This means they will be entitled for custom-made benefits apart from the incentives already mentioned in the policy, and that will be decided on case-to-case basis as per the requirement of investors. Chhattisgarh is ready to offer special incentive packages for Japanese investors under the bespoke policy. We are promising development of Japanese industrial township in the state. If required, we can facilitate creation of such industrial township. And to sum up the presentation, offerings of Chhattisgarh include financial incentives, skilled workforce, encumbrance, free land, plug-and-play infrastructure, single stroke clearance, and many more to the investors. And to conclude, we welcome investors from Japan to come and experience Chhattisgarh and become a partner in the growth by joining Make in Chhattisgarh. We are also looking forward for long-term collaboration with Japanese companies to establish their manufacturing base in Chhattisgarh. We are also ready to facilitate Japanese companies to establish tie-up with local Chhattisgarh-based steel companies, and few of them are already attending this webinar with us. Thanks again for giving me this opportunity to showcase my state before this August gathering. Thank you very much.
チャッティスガル州政府商務産業局上席次官マノジ・クマール・ピンガ氏によるプレゼンテーションのサマリーをお伝えいたします。インド中央部に位置するチャッティスガル州は2000年にマディアプラデシュ州の一部が分割され誕生した州です。州面積は13万5000平方キロメートルで国内10位の面積を持ちます。成長著しい州で州 GDP はこの10年間で4倍に拡大しています。約28種類の鉱物を産出しており、ドロマイト採掘量で国内1位、石炭と鉄鉱石の採掘量では国内2位です。23,800メガワットの発電設備容量を持つ電力余剰州で、停電の心配がなく、鉄鋼業やその他製造業に好ましい環境が整っています。特に2018-19年度にインド全体の鉄鋼生産量の1億点のうち、国内3位にあたる1200万トンを生産するなど鉄鋼業が盛んです。鉄道、道路といった交通網が発達しており、特に州内のライプール空港からインド国内への主要都市までの主要フライト時間は約100分と高い交通利便性を誇っています。また、著名な教育機関が多数存在し、産業界のニーズに応えています。水道、電気を手頃な料金で利用できるほか、土地価格も安いため、事業活動コストの削減が可能です。州政府は投資誘致に向け、投資関連許認可の期日発給を行う効率性の高い投資専門窓口を設置しています。州政府は最高レベルのインフラを整備した事業用地を5000エーカー以上確保、入居企業用にプラグ&プレイ設備も提供しています。現在、州内には53の産業地域、産業団地があります。州内の鉄鋼産業及び関連産業の振興を目指すジャスティスガル州では、 国立鉱山開発公社がナスタール地区のナガルナールで年産能力300万トンの一貫生産型製鉄工場の開発を行っています。その他にもライプール、そしてドゥルグビライはインドの鉄鋼産業ハブとして台頭しています。ライプールおよびその周辺には小規模製鉄所やアチェーン工場が100カ所以上集積。ライプール、ライガール、ビラスプール、ドゥルグには約80カ所の海面鉄生産施設が集中しています。州政府は鉄鋼エンジニアリングといった鉄鋼産業における日地産業のクラスター形成に力を入れており、ライプール地区のシルテラに一次及び二次鉄鋼製品の製造を行う鉄鋼クラスターを形成しています。チャッティースガール産業政策2019-2024では、投資家に向け財政的、非財政的支援を提供、さらに1300万ドルを超える大型投資案件については、個別に特別優遇策パッケージを提供しています。ぜひ、チャッティースガル州に進出して、パートナーとして共に成長していきましょう。以上です。
続きまして、インベストインディア、シーラトコヒリ様より、メイキンインディアと FDI 促進策及び閉会の辞を申し上げさせていただきます。Next, I would like to request Ms. Sheila Tokohiri, Invest India, to give the presentation on Making India and FDI facilitation and closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. To all the esteemed panelists and the attendees, I am Seerat Kohli from the Japan Plus desk at Invest India. Invest India is a national investment promotion and facilitation agency. It was set up in 2009 as a non-profit venture under the Department for Promotion of Internal Trade and Industry, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. We engage with various stakeholders such as the central and state governments, as well as foreign missions and agencies, as well as the industry, which are the associations, corporates, academia, and professional advisors. At Invest India, we provide end-to-end services such as business advisory, strategy implementation, location advisory, policy advocacy, and investor aftercare. Till date, Invest India has received 232,299 business requests, and we continue to engage with 37 states and union territories, 159 nations across 40 sectors. Till date, we have an indicated pipeline of 136 billion in investments. We have also received multiple awards, such as the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development Investment Promotion Award in 2016 for excellence in partnering for investment promotion, as well as 2018 for promotion of investment in sustainable development. We also received the Best Investment Project Award 3 years in a row in 2016, 2017, 2018 at the annual investment meeting organized by the Ministry of Economy in the UAE. We also have received Great Place to Work certification. I would like to highlight a short case study where Invest India helped a Japanese apparel company enter into India. So in 2018, the company reached out to Invest India during a Make in India roadshow, and Invest India met the company for FDI clarifications as well as the company's legal team for multiple plastic and labeling related queries. We also helped the company in clarifying sourcing and other pressing issues and held a detailed session on the GST application in India. Invest India also helped the company with a detailed presentation on the sub-clauses of the FDI policy, and is also helping the company with applications pertaining to pollution, import, labeling. And we also help with the final stages before opening of their first store. We continue to work with the company in other projects within this segment, which includes location assessment and expansion advisory. At Invest India, we have a dedicated Japan Plus desk, which is a team to support and handle Japanese investors. We have partnered with METI, and our mandate is to handle these investments across all sectors. We also fast-track all issue resolutions. During the current pandemic, we had a dedicated team which supported Japanese investors, and we received 9,586 queries in total, where 94% were resolved in an average time of 6 hours. These issues range from logistics support to plant shutdowns, clarifications, notifications, as well as supply of essential goods and services. We maintain one-on-one contact with 148 Japanese companies in India, out of which companies such as Olympus, Nipro, Medical, TDK, and Yakult were companies that we supported. I would like to thank the Embassy of India and the Ministry of Steel for executing this wonderful webinar today. I would like to inform all the participants that the chat box is now open for networking. For meetings with the government at the central or state level, we encourage you to get in touch with us and the Embassy of India, Tokyo, to assist you in these meetings. Thank you to all the attendees and panelists. We hope to be in touch.
インベストインディア、シーラとコヒリ氏によるプレゼンテーションのサマリーをお伝えいたします。インベストインディアは、インド政府商工省下に2009年に開設された対イン投資促進機関です。インドへの進出を希望される外国企業の皆様に進出先選定からパートナー企業の紹介、投資後の事業拡大支援など、在員の外国交換や中央州政府、各産業団体と緊密に連携し、包括的な投資支援サービスを行っています。これまで23万件以上の問い合わせに対応してきています。インベストインディアでは、投資初期の支援だけではなく、進出後の長期支援が重要であると考えています。2018年6月に開催されたメイクインインディア投資セミナーをきっかけに、インド参入のご相談を受けた日系アパレルメーカーへの支援事例をご案内いたします。当初は直接海外投資の許可申請や各種規則、調達などに関するお問い合わせに対応、その後 GST についての説明や公害規制、輸入規制、ラベリングに関する規制など、進出後の事業運営に関わるご質問にも対応、申請支援も行いました。現在、この企業はインドに進出事業を展開しています。私たちは現在もこの企業に対する支援を継続しており、今後の事業拡大を含め、関連税制や追加支援についてアドバイスを行っています。ジャパンプラスデスクは日本の経済産業省とのパートナーシップを通じ開設された日本の投資家専用窓口で、日系企業によるインドの各産業部門への投資を手厚く支援し、問題が起きたときには迅速に対応、早期の問題解決を目指します。現在は95社、総額18億2700万ドルの投資案件を取り扱っています。現在のコロナ禍においても、日本専用チームが日本企業を支援、合計9586件の問い合わせに平均6時間の長時間で対応してきました。インドに進出している日系企業のうち、オリンパスやニブロメダクル、TDK、ヤクルトを含む148社は、インベストインディアが支援を行った投資案件です。本日のウェビナーを開催してくださいましたインド大使館、そしてすべてのパネリストの皆様に感謝を申し上げます。今後、チャットボックスがご参加の皆様にご利用できるようになりますので、ぜひインドの気になる企業とのネットワーキングにご利用ください。そして、インド政府、また州政府との、話し合いをご希望の場合はですね、インベストインディアまたは在日のインド大使館の方にご連絡ください。本日はご参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございました。以上です。
ここで質疑応答の時間ですが、いただいたご質問はパネリストより直接回答させていただきました。So, as we are running behind the schedule, all the questions received by the participants have been answered directly from panelists. 以上をもちまして、本日のウェブセミナーは終了とさせていただきます。ここからはオンラインネットワーキングの時間とさせていただきます。会社案内をご希望される企業様は手を挙げるをクリックしてください。表示しているリストは B2B ミーティングに関心を示していただいた日本の企業様とインドの企業様のリストです。オンラインネットワーキングに参加される企業様は、お名前、企業名に続き、1、2分で自社の紹介をお願いいたします。参加者はオンラインチャット機能を通して、ご自身で B2B ミーティングを設定いただけます。Now we have online networking session. If you would like to introduce your company, please raise your hand by the Zoom function. The list we show on the screen is Japanese companies which indicated their interest to B2B meetings, and Indian companies. In this session, we may request company to mention your name, company name, and introduce about your company in 1 to 2 minutes. Participants are free to contact these companies over online chat to schedule B2B meeting by yourself.「会社紹介される企業様、手を挙げるを押していただけますでしょうか。こちらでパネリストに昇格させていただきます。Please raise your hand if you want to introduce your company. First, Mr. Imamura-san from Symphonia Technology Corporate Limited. And, はい、今村様、よろしくお願いします。
Good afternoon. This is Imamura from Symphonia Technology in Japan. We are the family company of Kobe Steel, and we have many products related to the steel industry. So if you have any inquiries, please contact us. Thank you. よろしいでしょうか?
You can give some details of your products.
Oh, especially we have one product called lifting magnets, which will pull up the steel products and materials. And I'm not so sure in India how these lifting magnets are used in the steel companies. So I would like to explore some opportunities. Thank you. Hi, that's end of
以上でしょう
my.
か。はい。
Yes, hi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next, 三井 and Corporate Limited. 三井物産さんいらっしゃいませんでしょうか。Next, Cushman and Wakefield KK. Cushman and Wakefield 株式会社さん。Next, Smile Corporation. Smile 様。Next, コベルコ様。Next, Jayatilt. Next, Murugappa Organo Water Solutions Private Limited. Next, Sojitsu. Next, Hanwha India Private Limited. Next, Sakuma Special Steel Corporate Limited. Next, 一般社団法人横浜インドセンター。Next, トヨタ通商。Next, TYK Corporation.
はい。
はい。本田様。
います。
はい、どうぞ。会社紹介をお願いいたします。
はい。Hi, my name is Honda. I'm working for TYK Corporation. TYK is a refractory maker in Japan. We're supplying that as refractory product to Japanese steel plant and also other countries, states, and Germany, France, and others. Yes. Located in Japan, operating in the center of Japan, and then the head office in Tokyo. This is a plant picture, and we are supplying that is the refractory for the steel making mainly. Our product is carbon blocks for the blast furnace, lance pipes, and the couple sleeve and the MHP for the steel converter, and the purging plug for the ladle, and the condensed casting refractories. And we are not in the department store of the refractory. We don't manufacturing many types of the breakdown or castable gardening material. So we may not be the largest refractory company in the tonnage or in sales, but we surely are in the front line of the global quality competition. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other company who would like to introduce yourself? 他に会社案内されたい企業様いらっしゃいませんでしょうか？もしこちらのリストに表示している企業様と個別のミーティングを希望される場合は、インド大使館の経済商務部までメールでご連絡くださいませ。If you would like to introduce, if you want us to introduce other Japanese companies, please send email to Economic and Commerce Wing, Embassy of India, Tokyo. If no one else to introduce, I would like to conclude this networking session. Okay. 以上をもちまして、本日のネットワーキングを終了とさせていただきます。本日はご参加いただきまして、誠にありがとうございました。Now we will conclude the networking session. We appreciate the participants from India and Japan, and thank you very much for all the participants to share your time with us. Thank you very much.